Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 61 of Optimal Living Advice, the podcast where we take any questions you might have about the many struggles of life and get them answered for you here on the show. I am your host, certified life coach Greg Audino. Today, we're going to be looking at a lengthy, heartfelt question about needing validation or significance from others. This is, of course, something we can all relate to, but what happens when it lasts a lifetime and it oversees all of our actions? Well, we're going to find out today. So, without further ado, let's listen to what the asker had to say. For years, I have struggled with a feeling of constantly being looked over for opportunities and recognition, which has left me feeling deeply insecure. I found myself incredibly envious of other people who were achieving my goals and dreams, and positively indignant when others were praised for doing the same thing that I was already doing. I was known for being a good kid, the one that simply follows the rules and does what is asked without needing to be reminded. While I have been quite proud of this, is the fact that I have been well-behaved and obedient left me invisible? I feel as though, why should I bother if no one will notice me, and I know the pain of not being noticed will be so severe that it will take away from my feeling of success. Do you have any recommendations for a better way to approach or view these situations? Is my need for validation from my peers and superiors unreasonable, or am I letting my ego steer me down a bad road? Your input would be greatly appreciated, as I have never really expressed these feelings before. And there we have it, a big question, a layered question, and a question that certainly required a lot of vulnerability. So thank you very, very much for sending this in. I'm always particularly honored when you guys mention not having expressed these feelings before. It's really meaningful to me. So welcome to a community where we all appreciate that and we're all here to support you. Really quick, just to start, I want to say that for this scenario, it seems like a very good use of your time for you to revisit your relationship with your parents or your childhood in general. I know that might sound like the same old story, so I won't dwell on it for long, but if you're not sure where this came from, a lot of our feelings of significance formulate in those developmental years, and I would guess that's definitely the case for you since you mentioned this being something that dates way back to childhood. Perhaps you received a lot of praise early on, which made other forms of praise never quite measure up, and thus you were unreceptive to them. Or perhaps it's just the opposite, and you never received enough praise and are still searching for it. Or maybe those are both completely wrong and I'm just speculating, but I do think it's worth exploring that part of your life, either with your parents or with a therapist, because if it dates back to a young age, it's a bit easier to pinpoint the inciting event or events that started these feelings within you. That's the past, though, and while I can't really answer much about that, what we can talk about here is your present, so that's what we'll do. And presently, the rub here is that you have no sense of self, no self-worth. If you look back through your question, you say things like, incredibly envious of other people, indignant when others were praised, known for being a good kid, why should I bother if no one will notice me, and so on. Your main concerns all relate to how others operate. They're all very reactive. Obviously, having so much of your pride rely on the opinions of others will not do. It hasn't and it won't, and you know that, otherwise you wouldn't have sent in this question. What's crucial is for you to change the impression you have of yourself by generating experiences that have more to do with how you feel about you than how others feel about you. While it is important to assess the why underneath your habits with a therapist or someone similar, you can also be taking actions to counteract where you are right now, so you're both understanding your current state of mind and working to make it healthier. So, the question you can get to work on your own is, what about you do you like no matter what others have to say about it? And how can you exploit that in your daily life? Maybe you always give yourself credit for being a kind person and know that that holds true no matter whether or not others recognize and praise you for it. So play to that kindness. Volunteer, go out and do random good deeds for people, or make a donation to a charity you're passionate about. Maybe you're like me and you have a love for animals that goes unshaken, and it's part of you that's organic and that you really value. So go pick up some work as a dog walker, foster an animal, or make weekly visits to the local pet store. I'm sure the employees won't pick up on it after the first couple of months. So just seek out the parts of you that you take huge pride in and then maximize them. Now, one of the things you mentioned is that you are proud to have been a lifelong rule follower, a good kid, as you put it. That is not only a great thing to be proud of, but also a great acknowledgement to make on your part. But you also asked if this behavior is precisely what has left you invisible as you see it, indicating to me that you might be tempted to not follow the rules if it means getting recognition, to start not following the rules, that is. Now, surely people that act out get more attention, yes, but it's usually not good attention. Regardless, for you, that would be an extremely bad idea, in my opinion. If being well-mannered is something that you're genuinely proud of, selling that away for the sake of getting noticed is only going to further distance you from the vision you have of not being insecure. It would be you sacrificing what you want and what you like for the sake of what you assume others want from you. And we definitely want to do the opposite of that right now, right? Just as much as you should be trying to maximize the amount of things you do purely for you, you should also be minimizing the things that you do for the approval of others. So the same way we brainstormed about things you love about yourself no matter what and how to make more time for them, also brainstorm about things you only do to appease others and how you can do less of them. Now, while that method will help you make good changes over time, you're still going to be faced with trying situations in which your instinct is to appease others and seek out that credit. That instinct will change over time, not overnight, but over time. But until that happens, when you're in the heat of that moment and your need for validation is, really spiking, try to take a breath and ask yourself what you really want or what really comes from gaining the approval of others for you. Ask yourself what the true benefit is. Is the praise from another person going to make you a more valuable person? Does it really make you you? Probably not for both of those questions. Or do you just crave this significance because it's something you feel you've been deficient in, not because it really reflects the type of person you are? Probably. Also, reflect on how others may give praise in a way that's different from how you receive praise. It's like the love languages, right? People can show their love in all different types of ways. So why wouldn't it be the same for praise? Is it possible that the way you receive praise just doesn't line up with how others are giving it? Is it possible that many people recognize all the wonderful attributes about you, and maybe they show it by, maintaining friendships or going out of their way to do things for you as opposed to verbally crediting you? It's possible. Perhaps others are looking for the same validation you are, and you'd be more likely to receive validation if you were the first one to offer it to others. That's possible too. Understanding or attempting to understand the wavelengths that others are on, as opposed to purely looking at it from the standpoint of your own needs and your own expression, can be a very eye-opening tool. You might not get the answers, but assessing the possibilities can make a huge difference. At the end of the day, praise and recognition is something we all strive for in our own ways. It's a normal thing, and like most things, it only becomes harmful when we attach our identities to it. Now, yours is anything but unreasonable. It might be more than many others, but it's still a perfect amount given how your life has panned out up until this moment. Just remember, if you were to start getting all the praise from everyone that you hope for and were to become happy because of that, you still wouldn't be the one controlling your life, would you? The true control and security you seek goes beyond getting credit from others, and you can attain it by starting to work on what we talked about here today. And we will wrap things up there, folks. It's been a long one. Thank you so much for submitting this question, and thank you again for trusting in us. I sure hope that your first time revealing these feelings has been a time in which you've felt both safe, educated, and also inspired. Anyone else, if you have a question that you'd like to submit to us and get answered here on the show, please do. You can email us your questions at advice@oldpodcast.com. Advice@oldpodcast.com. That's where we're at, and we'd be happy to have a look. All right? I'll talk to you next time, everyone, and stay safe out there.